Lesson 67, dimensional analysis, is basically a problem-solving strategy in which you can cancel units of measurement as if they're numbers. Getting into a conversion factor where you're going to basically have a ratio of two equal quantities that are measured with different units, so being able to convert from one to the other. So working with dimensional analysis, basically to cross off the units, we're going to start off with the original $10.50. Basically, by making this a fraction, we know that we need to multiply by the number of quarters, which would be 4 quarters to $1. Your dollar measurements would cancel out, so the dollars, and then you'd go ahead and multiply 450 times 4, and then you would see that you'd have a quarters would be your answer. So you would have 42 quarters in $10.50. Now, a lot of you could already figure I need to multiply by 4 and be done with it. As the problems become a little more difficult, you'll have to use the dimensional analysis approach. So we'll use dimensional analysis here to go ahead to find the answers unit. Now it's kind of like if you look at the operation here, it's multiplication, so it's kind of like simplifying. We can take a second off the top, a second off the bottom, and what we'd be left with would be our answer, which would be revolutions per minute. Down in B, we can cross off weeks here, and we'd be left with dollars per month. Down in C, we can determine what we need to cross off here, so we can take miles off the top and a numerator and a denominator. We can take minutes off a denominator and a numerator, and then we could also take hour off the numerator and denominator, leaving us with feet per second. Example 2, we have to determine how many yards are in 2 miles. So you're going to start out with your starting point, which is going to be 2 miles. We start out with 2 miles. We're going to multiply because we know this is going to be a bigger amount here, a greater value. We need to get rid of miles. In order to get rid of miles, miles has to be as a denominator here, because we can basically think of this as a fraction like so. So we need to figure out what would be the next thing we could convert to. Well, miles to feet. Well, there are 5,280 feet per mile, and if you look at that, it's saying 5,280 feet per mile. So that's basically what that fraction is mentioned. Now if you look at this dimensional analysis here, you would actually get rid of miles, so you'd be left with feet. So we need to convert feet to yards. Well, how would you convert feet to yards? Well, here we go. We need to get rid of feet, and we need to get to yards. And why did I put feet on the bottom? Because feet is on the top there in blue. So now we go ahead and fill it in that there are 3 feet per yard. So now we can go ahead and cross off feet, and you're left with yards. Now how do you multiply fractions? Well, you multiply your numerators and then multiply your denominators and see what you wind up with. So in the numerator you have 2 times 5,280 times 1. Denominators, we'd have 1 times 1 times 3. So we'd have, when you reduce everything, you would get 3,520 yards. Or that would be converting from 2 miles to yards. Example 3, in 8 minutes, Thomas can type 500 words. And how many words can Thomas type per minute? We want to go per minute here. So in order to get that, that would be words per minute. So he has 500 words in 8 minutes. Now if we went to per minute, figure out that unit rate, we would divide and we would get 62.5 words per minute. In B here, we're going to actually use part A as part of our process here to figure out B. It says, how long would it take to type 800 words? Well, we need to type 800 words. In order to get there, we know that we can type 62.5 words per minute. So 62.5 words per minute. We can go ahead and divide here. When you divide, you would actually come up with 12.8 minutes. Okay, we take 800 divided by 62.5. The words would cancel out. You're left with minutes. We needed to figure out, now when you write time, you don't put down 12.8 minutes. So we need to figure out, well, what is 0.8? Well, it's going to be 12 minutes, and 0.8, we need to determine what is that. We know that there's 60 seconds in a minute. So 60 times 0.8 is going to give you 48, which would be 48 seconds. So the time here would be 12 minutes, 48 seconds. Again, that would seem logical because we know that 12.5 minutes would be 12 minutes 30 seconds, so 0.8 would have to be something greater than 30 seconds. Example 4 is one of those problems that dimensional analysis is going to come in handy. It says convert 60 miles per hour to feet per second. You are at 60 miles per hour. 60 miles per hour. We need to convert to feet per second. What I find it easiest to do is go ahead and do, if you think about it here, you have two units. You have miles and you have hours. We need to convert to feet and we need to convert to seconds. So take one piece at a time. Either deal with your time first or your distance first. I'm going to go ahead and work with my distance. So I'm going to go ahead and convert to feet. We need to get rid of miles. So miles will be on the bottom here. We can go ahead and convert to feet here. We know that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. If you think about it, your miles would now cancel out. If you had to do your dimensional analysis here and you took 60 times 5,280, you would wind up with feet per hour. We need to get to feet per second. So now that we're at feet, let's go ahead and convert from hours to seconds. Well, hours is going to be on the top because it's on the bottom already. We're going to go from hours to minutes. We know that in 1 hour there's 60 minutes. Times. We need to get to seconds. Well, minutes has to be on top in order to get rid of that dimensional analysis here so we can get rid of minutes. And we can go from minutes to seconds. We know in 1 minute there is 60 seconds. So if you think about it here, everything should be canceled off. Hours would be canceled out. And you would be left with, well, feet on top and seconds on the bottom. So you have feet per second. So go ahead and multiply your numerators, multiply the denominators, make sure we reduce, and we wind up with 88 feet per second. So dimensional analysis, 60 miles per hour would equate to 88 feet per second. This will conclude lesson 67.